So everybody knows this is the budget workshop starting at 6:30, and then at 7 o'clock will be the council meeting, the official council meeting.
Okay. Share the. Oops, look at that. Share with the folks at home. Okay, this is our first budget workshop for the 2025 budget. And so with the agenda today, we're going to talk about, basically this is going to be an overview of where we're at on the budget, what it looks like, and then move on from there. So we're going to talk about our fund balances. We have several funds. We budget 4 of them, and so we'll show those 4 fund budgets. The other one are for smaller items. We'll talk about the capital expense plan. We have a 5-year capital expense plan that's laid out, and it is tied to the budget. So everything that's in the expense plan is also in the budget. We have a bond project tracking sheet, which is all of the projects that we are working on, mainly infrastructure projects, but some other smaller projects as well, mainly sewer infrastructure projects, but some smaller ones as well. And then we're going to talk about the budget planning document and how that works and what decisions we have laid out for the administration and the department heads. And then we can discuss if council wants to add anything to those decisions or consider anything additionally. So the first is, these are the current accounts that we have. The ones that we budget, the general fund, the road fund, the sewer fund, and the bond fund are all budgeted. The other few, the SCBA reserve is a fund for fire equipment for the fire department. And then we have petty cash and then the liquid fuels fund. The liquid fuels fund comes from state taxes on gasoline. And we are really pretty specifically limited on what we're allowed to use that for. We mainly use it for street signs and posts and for offsetting our street light. But there's other things we can use it for. But this is where the fund budget balance is. The thing you see on the side there is a reserve pool. It's ideal that you want to have in your reserve fund enough for 3 months expenses. And you can see in each of our funds, we have more than that. And so we're in good shape. Our general fund reserve doesn't have enough, but our general fund and reserve together have way more than enough. We're also going to see transfers to the general fund reserve at the end of the year that will bring that back up. But we can discuss that later as well. Any questions before I move on to the next? Okay. The draft fund budgets for 2025. These are the amounts of the budgets as they stand now. These are just drafts. Obviously, you're going to be able to make decisions and move things forward, but we're at $6.5 million for the general fund. The bond project fund is very large next year. We have the Broadhead project going in next year. We have the C20 project going in next year, which is another sewer project. And possibly there's some other smaller the borough, I mean, the public works building is another large thing. So you do see a lot of costs next year because all of those projects are slated to start next year or slated to start either this fall or next year.
And Jim, that includes the grant money. Oh,
yeah, that's all. In fact, probably most of that is going to be I think almost entirely offset by grants. Then the sewer fund is a little over 2.5 million, and then the road fund is 6.74.
Can I just do a clarifying?
Yeah.
Because none of those grants are reflected up here, right?
What do you mean?
They're included in those numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, these are just overall budget numbers.
Gotcha. Okay, so that money is included.
Not what we are gonna pay at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
What's gonna be paid total
Yeah.
between us and grants.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then we also have a 5-year capital improvement plan built in. It's not necessarily a traditional capital improvement plan because it doesn't include infrastructure, because so much of that is included on our bond sheets. So that is already a sort of a capital plan. So once the bond issuance is closer to done, maybe in 26, we should expand this capital improvement plan to include infrastructure. But right now it's not needed. And then the bond tracking sheet, we'll also talk about a little bit. There are 4 sheets. There are 4 spreadsheets on the bond tracking sheet. The first one is committed projects. And we have moved now Station Street project, which is, Station Street there's a wall over by the busway on Station Street that needs to be repaired. We're expecting a back of the envelope calculation was $150,000 to repair it. But we've committed the work authorization to do the engineering work. So we've moved that to committed. For bathhouse project, now is complete and we're still finalizing some grant details, but I moved that to completed because the project itself is completed. For pending and proposed projects, I split the C20 work into 2 separate items. It had been tracking as one item. And I built in some contingency so that we don't get to the end of this year of $10 million worth of projects and find out that we don't have enough. So we're estimated, and then even with that contingency, we're estimated to have about $650,000 left in the bond fund after all of that is accounted for. And it is my suggestion that we do not do anything with that at this time. We're well over what we've spent. We're required to spend 80% of the bond within the first 4 years. We will have well surpassed that. And this allows us to have a buffer so that when all these projects come in, that if there's any cost overages or anything like that, we're prepared for it. So that's the bond tracking sheet. And then I'm going to talk about the budget planning doc, and I will actually open that up and show you what that looks like. Okay, so budget planning doc has, and all the council members now have a copy of this. In your inbox. If you didn't get it for some reason, let me know. There are 4 sheets to this, and a couple sheets that are hidden that are feeding this. This is the line item for every single line item that in our budget. We're not going to go through 500 line items, especially since most of these are things that you have to pay every year. Most of these are rent and wages and utilities and things like that. So, and then also built into this is all of the leases that we own are attached to those line items. So these are all the leases that we have currently, and then we also have future leases in here, because as I said, the capital improvement plan is built into this. So these are proposed leases for those capital purchases in the future. So 25, 27, 28, as we're replacing the vehicles on the scheduled timeline. Payroll is also completely attached to that. So any changes, everybody's listed here, all the departments, all their benefits, all their wages are listed on this. And then the last thing, so that all feeds into the line items. And that is, and let me show you one other thing. First off, I guess probably the most important thing is, as it's written right now, we have a balanced budget and no tax increase. So I think that's what probably a lot of people want to hear, right? No tax increase, balanced budget.
And to emphasize, that would be the 5th year of no tax increases.
Yep.
5 years, which is not normal for most of these.
Yeah, so we're able to keep the same. So up here at the top is the balance. As we change things on these, it'll change that balance number. A couple things that just to show you what are linked in here. So any of when you look through the line items, so when you're actually looking at this at home and going into the details, there's color codes here on top. The ones that are just gray with black lettering are cells that have data from other sources but are not connected. For example, this first one is interest rates. We know that interest rates have been really high, and so we're budgeting high for next year. But you'll see that these start to go down, which is counter to what everything else on this budget is doing. That all the other budget items are going up by a count of 3%, and they're down the road like that. When we get into the ones that are connected, coming down a little further with this orange, these are actually fed from other sheets. So these are directly connected to other sheets. So they're the salaries or the leases or what have you. And I noticed actually what I did at my desk, Coletta, 2 o'clock didn't save because I changed this, but I'll have to do it. I must not have hit save or pulled the wrong one. Yeah, I'll just change it, yeah. But, so that's how this works, and then this is also fed by the decisions page. So these are the things that are discretionary spending, I have built into this, I think I said in my email earlier, $455,000 worth of discretionary spending. It is set up right now that there are more items. If, for example, if we go on this and choose yes we're gonna replace the elevator in this building, which is close to being needing to be replaced, you see now my budget is short $100,000. So that's how we can work through the decisions that we make. And we'll have to, figure out from there what, that which one to do. So anyway, coming back to this, I want to walk through these decisions. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, can you make it so that?
It's bigger?
on the screen, so
Yeah.
I can see. Oh, there's.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good thing. Okay. So, all right. So the first thing I have on the list, we do need, this is a minor thing, but it is discretionary. We need tables and chairs for the community center. Those are amount to about my estimated cost about $12,000 for those. And these are all separated by what line item they're going to go into. And the next are those were small municipal property decisions. These are some of the larger ones. We do need a new floor for the community center, new treatment for window treatments and whatnot. It's definitely dated, and we hear comments from people who rent it. So we'd like to consider updating that. This actually helped. I would consider raising the price of the rentals if we do this, make it a little nicer, and maybe add a little bit to the rental cost itself, so we cover the cost. Landscaping at the Borough Building. Wayfinding, wayfinding is essentially signage and what to help people find their way around. We do have this listed in a grant right now. So I might suggest not doing this and waiting for the grant to come in and considering it in the future, but just throwing it out there. Sorry, there's an extra line here that was an accident. Elevator, we just talked about. The elevator in this building is 27 years old, which is pretty old in elevator terms. It probably, I've been told that most of the parts on it are not available anymore. So it probably will need to be replaced at some point. I would suggest probably not doing this next year, seeing how it goes, but being prepared that we might have an emergency at some point and have to deal with it. And see how
it's broken down during election day.
Yeah, it sure did.
So we had it break down because of the usage of it going up and down, and it did break during election day, so. It's a huge expense, but we don't want it to be broken or anybody stuck in the elevator.
Yeah. Awning for the Borough Building, we hear about it all the time. There's the only place that doesn't have an awning is the door that gets used more than any other door. So be nice to have an awning over top of that door. Admin restroom, we had this on the budget for last year, that Public Works was gonna do it. It turned out to be a little bit too much. It's a little more construction oriented. So we raised the budget for this, and we're asking to put it on this one to have a contractor do it. It is, if you've been in it, it's an embarrassment. And it really needs to be replaced. So.
And it's not ADA accessible.
Not ADA accessible. I don't feel comfortable going in there myself, so, and it's right behind my office. But that should be done at some point soon. And then the last thing is, we are getting an estimate on this. We do not have a solid estimate on this, but for those of you that have been in the Borough Building, you know that the garage floor for the police cars is incredibly bad. It is rusting through the basement and it could collapse. Not anytime soon, but eventually. And so we're getting a quote for what it might take to fix it more robustly. It was kind of had a Band-Aid put on it. And it's still good. It's not dangerous yet, but it's headed in that direction. So I don't, that is not I don't know if that estimate is realistic. I just put an estimate in there to hold a space. So that will be updated when we get an estimate. Moving on to Public Works. Everything there, and remember, there are other things for Public Works, but they're built into the capital plan. So I don't have them on the decision sheet. If that is something that council wants on the decision sheet, we can do that. But I figured if we just build them, if they're on the capital plan, just build them into the budget and don't consider them discretionary spending because you want to spend money on something else. I think it's best to keep it like this, but if you do want to change it, by all means, let me know. So back to this is when I think it was in 2022 or early in my first year, 2023, they bought a truck and it was the only truck they could find, and it had a different spreader on the back that is already acting up and is very difficult. So we'd like to get them a hydraulic spreader, which works much better and is easier to use. And that's that would be a $6,000 cost. And then we have the bigger, these are the big road decisions. And Larry and I have been talking a lot about this. Larry's the borough engineer. We could probably, because we've done so many projects, and again, next year, we're doing a lot of projects which are replacing roads. Our roads are actually in pretty good shape. So this is an opportunity to maybe spend more on brick repair work around the borough, or even not spend anything at all on the road paving program next year and spend it on some of the other things. Because our roads are in pretty good shape this year, and this might allow us to take care of some of the other issues we have. But these are the budgets. As you can see, I've pre-budgeted in 325. Typically what we've been doing every year with asphalt is about $325,000. And so I kept it that same amount. I think, okay, a couple more decisions. Pool decisions, I didn't put any of these in, but these are asks that we've had from people at the pool. One of the biggest is the pool slide needs to be replaced, probably sooner rather than later. I do advise us, DCNR has good grants for this every year. They're in January. If we do budget this, I would suggest that we budget half the amount and then go out for a grant, and see if we can't get a DCNR grant to cover a pool slide. Another thing that's been asked for by several people is putting a pavilion in the grassy area behind the slide. For the pool, there's been quite a few people who have wanted that. Would it be very popular during pool parties and things like that? And then the last thing on this list is a cover for the concession customers. Right, they've been putting tents out there. They've been trying to do different things, but so we want to get them a permanent awning or cover for the folks that are waiting in line down at the concession stand. And then and I guess I do have a few more. Sorry, I didn't realize it. The next one is this is not in the capital budget. And I think it was a miss, frankly, in the capital budget. But this is getting a new code enforcement car. Season's driving the oldest car in the fleet, and it's in pretty bad shape. And I would suggest us trying to buy an electric car for this. I was talking to Steve. We're able to purchase, if we get quotes from other folks, we can purchase directly from one of the rental car agencies. They're all dropping off like their Chevy Bolts and their Tesla 3s for less than $20,000. So it'd be a good opportunity to get an electric car at a pretty discounted price with only 20,000 miles on it. And with the amount that they drive, a code enforcement drives, she might drive 5 miles in a day, 10 miles in a day. So it's a good option there. And then the last two things, I put in $25,000 for a dog park. I know there's been a lot of interest in that, so I threw it in a budget so we could maybe talk about it more robustly and see where someone would want to put that in and go from there. And then I've had 2 requests for a budget for repairing the bocce ball court down in the park. And so that would take either moving it somewhere else or or fixing the water issue, where it is currently. So with that, any questions about these, or are there anything that we missed that you want to have included? Vince, you can talk.
Okay.
Yep.
The roads.
Yes,
I usually disagree that our roads are in good shape.
okay.
That 325, is that the budget or is that additional above the budget?
That is already in the budget. So at a balanced budget right now, that's in the budget.
Okay,
So if you can move the 100,000 for brick into the paving asphalt and not change anything on the overall budget. So,
okay, thank you.
so yeah, where the ones that I've already clicked yes on. I just chose arbitrarily just to put a number in there and to have a balance. Though the ones that are selected yes are in the budget.
So if we said no to those,
It'll
there'll be
be-
no funding for the roads next year.
Exactly. It'll go away.
Okay,
No, well, not no funding for potholes and stuff like that. That is still, we have a road fund and potholes are taken care of and that stuff is taken care of. Just no new milling and paving. That's what that budget is for.
And this comes from the road tax anyhow, so this is.
That is correct.
Different budget.
That's its own road fund, yeah.
That
Yes,
was
this
last year,
is
right?
the, road.
But
Then the road tax goes.
no,
No,
no, we haven't had any,
Not that tax
Oh.
one up.
school went up. School's going up. this
Yeah,
year.
I know school there, I'm sorry, it's just another one. Sorry.
no, that's all right. It's okay to ask questions.
Especially for our later riders too. This is the budget that we're just going through the first round of the budget. And what we're proposing is no tax increase for the budget again. This will be the 5th year for no tax increase.
And this also lays out a plan for next 5 years of no tax increase. So,
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at right now. These ads, so I'd like to see the yeses that you have included already.
mhm.
Okay, so there's quite a few yeses that are in that balanced budget.
Yep, yeah, I tried to put as much in here as I could so that you had some ability to. To decide what you wanted to spend on.
So I have a question about
Yep.
the road milling and paving. We have that issue on Ewing Road
Yes,
that we do
Yeah.
need to talk about, we
Yeah.
do need to look at.
Yep.
And that is a bit more than just a standard mill and pave, so I don't know if we haven't looked at that yet unless it's
Nope.
been going on, unless, Larry's been doing
Thanks,
some
buddy.
research to get prepared on the back end. We don't know yet how much that will cost,
we can get an estimate. We can have someone look into it, yeah.
because that may be more than just milling and paving, it may be some
Yeah.
more intensive
so we're
restructuring.
sinking down a little bit.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
That's where it had slid out. And that's when someone it had been collapsed out and that's when it was closed. And then they got a engineer to say that they could build it back that way. And there was some disagreement about whether it would work the way they did it. So at least this is long before my time, but that's what I've heard. So.
So where we are in this process right now is that the council meeting is starting very shortly. This is just the preliminary. We have 7 other meetings that we'll be talking about this, and the ask is going to be to start the meetings at 6. So we have more time to discuss, review. This is very preliminary that we received, so finance committee meets next week to really scrub everything completely. And then, of course, council will have a chance to look at it. It will be public documents for the public. And then we'll go through, and the hope is to approve the budget for next year in November. I think that's the target, right, to approve the budget for next year. And again, it would not have a tax increase as it is now. If we decide to add additional projects, we would have to talk about that. The goal, at least from my perspective, is to keep a really balanced and fiscally responsible budget.
I had one sort of the library awning, is that something separate than
It
the,
was clean. Did you see them now? They look great.
do they?
Yeah, they're clean.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah, they look fantastic.
Good.
they
I
were
drove by
just-
today, I didn't look at it,
Yep. Yeah, we had them cleaned. So,
but I have my library sign.
Yeah, we did not have to replace them, yeah.
Perfect, because there was like something was dripping on them, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, when they cleaned the roofs, I think they re-cleaned the bricks too. One of the two processes
Okay.
really damaged them, but, yep. Anything else before we close? That's what I have for the budget workshop. We also. When I sent it, I think I did I send the capital and the bond? So you have all the different funds there.
Want this.
Yeah.
The other question, or high level now, but the floor of the garage for the police station, I know that is. In here as a placeholder, but we're getting some quotes. When do we think we'll have that to have a sense of how we build that into the budget?
The engineer will be here tomorrow. I don't know how long after that he'll need to, I can't guarantee the next meeting, but I would say by the following meeting. But
Okay.
now that Larry just walked in, I'll ask Larry. Larry, do you know when you get we're talking about the garage floor for the police station? After you guys meet tomorrow, do you know how long it'll be before you get an estimate?
Yeah, give me one,
Okay,
but he'll be here at 11:30 tomorrow morning to do it, so.
yeah, so once we get that, we'll let you know if we get an estimate by the next meeting, we'll let you
Okay.
know. Okay.
You're good. That will conclude the budget workshop. So we're